I'm here with Harmon Lisnow, who is the executive director of ICD. Now, Harmon, what does ICD stand for?
It's the Institute for Career Development. It's a joint steel industry, steel worker training program that's been funded through negotiations by the steelworkers.
Now, out of that program became a workshop with, I believe, a writer or an educator named Jim Baca, and that kind of started the whole wheel rolling on this whole event. And so tell us a little bit about this event and how everything got started.
Yes, we met Jimmy through a program we were working with out of New York called 411. And Jimmy was such a terrific writer and a natural teacher. We asked him to do workshops for us here in Northwest Indiana. And out of the workshops, there was such just poignant writing, strong writing from steelworkers. We decided they were good enough to get published, so we started working with publishers, and sure enough, they were interested. Out of that interest came the book, The Heat.
And the Heat is a compilation of steel workers, union workers, I believe, and the stories and poems, they vary. Can you tell us a little bit about the book itself?
Yes, the book was written, it was a series of stories and poems written by 15 steelworkers in Northwest Indiana and in the Baltimore area. And again, they're out of the workshops, and they talk about the lives of steelworkers. This is probably the only book ever written that really talks about what it's like to be in the mills through the eyes of people who actually work there and put in their 20 and 30 and 40 years.
Now, listening to some of these stories and some of the steelworkers that are reading today at Barnes & Noble's here in Hobart, Indiana, it's very inspirational. Now, for those people out there who are watching the show who want to get a hold of this book, The Heat, how can they get a hold of that?
Well, they can get a hold of it by coming to Barnes & Noble. Barnes & Noble is carrying it for us, or they can call our office, which is 738-9029 here in Maryville. That's 219-738-9029, and we can get them a copy.
Thanks for your time, and it was a pleasure to meet you.
Thank you.
And we're
Pleasure
going
to meet you, and
okay.
thank you for doing this.
And we're going to interview some of your writers. Is that okay?
Thank you. Yes, yes.
All right. Now I'm here with one of the poets of The Heat, and this is J.A. Orellana, and I have to ask you, which mill and which organization are you with?
Okay, I work at Inland Steel. Actually, it's Cispet Inland now. For the longest time, it used to be the Magic Eye, which was Inland Steel. I work for manufacturing and maintenance department specifically.
How many years do you have in?
26 short years.
Can you tell us a little bit about your poetry?
To give them a proper send-off, we would buy a bottle of Canadian Mist. Toast to the
Well, the poetry reflects, I want to say, my experiences in life. It's actually like a mirror that shows what it is that I'm thinking, my thoughts and my feelings. So it's actually a lifeline to my essence, if you want to call it that.
And I'm here with Gary Markley of Valparaiso, and Gary wrote "Long Live D Crew." Now, Gary, can you tell us, first of all, which mill are you with and which local?
Presently, I work at National Steel Midwest Division, and I'm a member of Local 8985. I did a brief stint at United States Steel years ago, but I've been 25 years at National now.
Okay, now tell us a little bit about your story.
Well, I think if we took people in the mill, we could show them sights that probably would really dazzle them visually, but what I pulled out after 25 years is it's the people in there that make all the difference in the world. And all my stories I write are based on how you almost become your own unique family inside the mill. And that's what all my stories are, is how guys work together, fight together, and sometimes have to face death together.
I'm here with Joe Cateras. Joe, which affiliation, which mill are you with?
I work at Inland Steel. I work full-time union in Local 1010 United Steelworkers.
Can you tell us?
41 years.
41 years. Okay, you knew that was coming. Now, Joe, can you tell us, you wrote Hawkeye, and which other stories did you write?
I wrote 5 stories. Hawkeye, Snow Danced in August, Little Joe, Alan Kepler, and Missing at Work.
Now, can you tell us about the workshop?
The workshop was, it was fascinating. You know, Jimmy Baca. We can't say enough about the guy. But when we heard about this workshop, I was told about the workshop through a third party, and I was kind of reluctant. And, you know, for a lot of reasons. But
Are you glad you took it, though?
oh, sure I am, absolutely. You know, Jimmy taught us, he taught me how much I don't know about writing. And I've been writing all my life, and I just, you know, he brings the romance out of you. Yeah.
I'm here with another one of the writers of The Heat, and this is Jennifer Jones. Jennifer wrote Day One, and what was the other one?
Women in the Mill.
Women in the Mill. Now, I have to ask you, Jennifer, can you tell us a little bit about your two stories?
To sum it up in one word, I'd have to say they're personal. They're personal, and they're examples of my growth over the years, from the time that I started over 30 years ago to now. So they're examples of my growth.
I'm here with Bill Corrigan, who is one of the writers of The Heat. Bill wrote A New Pair of Boots. Now, Bill, can you tell us which mill do you work with and which local are you with?
Ispan Inland, local 1010.
How many years?
I'm retired after 30.
After 30 years. Can you tell us a little bit about your story?
Actually, they asked me to join the work group and workshop, and they sent me a letter wanting me to write a story about my first day at work. So that's what I did, and I handed it in.
Do you remember very vividly your first day at the mill?
Oh yeah, read the story. You get all the odors and smells and colors and attitudes.
Now, what inspired you to take the workshop?
Actually, it was suggested by I was in a creative writing class, and the teacher asked me to try this out to get some experience. So
With Jimmy Baca?
yes,
Okay, tell me a little bit about Jimmy Baca.
I met him for a short time, and he's a very interesting person to work with. He's got a lot of knowledge, and he's got a lot of background behind him too. So there's a lot to learn from him.
Now, did you realize you had this kind of creative powers in you?
No. No, I mean, I've been writing short stories for years, but I never really attempted to have anything published, or, mostly for personal satisfaction. But this is a good feeling. So,
All right, well, thanks for your time.
thank you.
I'm here with another one of the writers of The Heat, and this is Chuck Canty. And Chuck, where are you from?
I'm Inland Steel.
Okay.
Or Inland Steel ISPAT now they call it.
And what local would you be out of?
That's local 1010.
Okay, now Chuck here wrote a short story called Thunderbird. Can you tell us a little bit about your story?
Well, Thunderbird was a true story that was based on an experience that I had with one of my co-workers that I had worked with. His real name was Albert Villarreal, and I worked with Albert about 10 years. And the story kind of relates that of how he had worked in the mill for over 30 years, and on his last day he was treated what I consider very poorly by a company or management people. And I thought it was a real great experience for me that the Steelworkers story is finally being told.
Well, thanks for your time.
Thank you.
I'm here with another one of the writers of The Heat, and I'm here with Kathy Wellington Duke, who wrote Ma Beth. Kathy, can you tell us a little bit about your story? Or actually, it's a poem.
It was written for the steelworkers who have died in my mill. I kind of went back to the earlier stages of the steelworkers where we used to have folk tales and folk stories and folk songs about our workers and when they died in the mill. So I kind of set it in that format, kind of like back in the 20s, and try to put some dignity to the people that have worked and died in my mill in the last 10 or 15 years.
Now, can you tell us what inspired you to take the workshop?
Well, it was kind of scary at first. Jimmy Baca was excellent. He's an excellent poet, and he just, the way he taught us and to bring out the good stuff in us. And as this thing grew, we didn't know we were going to start off as a book. And it was kind of funny. As the stories started coming in, they kept getting better and better until finally everybody just agreed this has to go into a book format.
Now, Kathy, which mill are you with and which affiliation are you with?
I'm in Bethlehem Steel, local 6787. Been out there for 23 years in the labor gang.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you very much.
I'm here with two of the writers of The Heat, and this is Marty and Wendy Marciniak. And I'll start with Marty here. Which mill do you work with?
I work at Bethlehem Steel for 33 years, machinist.
Okay, now you brought your wife along, and she also wrote a little, I think it was a poem. Wendy, can you tell us a little bit about your poem?
My poem is called Deliverance, and I wrote it because it sort of signified what happened when Marty got home from working 3 to 11s. And I was able to sit in on the workshop too because of an agreement with ICD and Jimmy Baca. So Jimmy got a poem out of me.
I think that's a wonderful thing to add one of the writers' wives in as well, because there are not only a lot of steelworkers out there in the region, but there are a lot of wives who are always waiting for their husbands to come home from the mills. You guys both glad you took the workshop?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Jimmy Baca's workshop was different than anything I had experienced or already anticipated. He took a sort of a minimalist approach to editing, that he was very protective of what the writers wrote. He would just tinker with it a little bit and just make suggestions, and beyond that, whatever the writers wrote was what went into the book.
Well, thanks for your time. I appreciate it, and have a nice day.